Well, welcome everybody. I just want to say hi, Shirley. Did anyone see the article in the paper?
Yes.
Okay, good one. It was such a, Rivka did such an amazing, amazing work just writing the article by herself, because I sent her a lot of questions, and I say the article, a lot of interview questions that when I interview an artist, there's like, I don't know, 35. I don't expect them to write every one. She had every single one filled in. It was amazing. And I got to know her so well. And you know the title, Surrealist Graffiti Artist. And when I first saw her work in the Sierra Art Trails, I was amazed by her work. And she has some free little giveaways in the back. I saw those. And she has some paintings in the back, which we'll see during our coffee break. So, Rivka's father.
Yes.
I forget your first name, sir?
Irving.
Irving?
Yeah, like Irving Berlin.
Irving, yes. Dr. Irving, okay? And he was a physician. You still operating on people? All right, nice and relaxed now, right? Let somebody else do it. Okay. Just a couple things that Rivka, just to remind you that she is a teacher. She's been teaching, she taught for 39 years, which is amazing, incredible. That's quite a, that's kind of a marathon. It's amazing, yeah. And she has incredible books in the other room of her students and her students' work, a lot of energy. When I first met her on the phone, I just was so excited about having her here to talk. Because she has so much energy, her artwork is incredible. The things that she does in her life, the adventures that she partakes in, and on the bus with a surfboard, must have been incredible. It broke down 3 times or 4, 3 or 4 times on the way. Hey, come on in. And so yes.
I'd like to say that she's been teaching 39 years. She's probably older than 45.
I'm way over than 45.
And she looks wonderful, isn't she?
Yeah, it just keeps you young.
Keeps young, and I've been taking moringa, which has been like
Moringa?
Yes, it's a plant that's an original plant on the earth, but it has every single enzyme to create the proteins that our body needs to create the building blocks of everything. And if you don't have all the protein, I was now malnutrition, even though I was eating McDonald's or whatever.
So it's called moringa.
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 It saved my dad's life.
What did you say?
I figure my dad
Moringa.
had white hair. 2 months ago, his hair was completely white and just turned brown. And I'm like, I'm taking that stuff. And then my hair went from gray to brown.
And what do you give moringa? What do you give that?
She's a distributor.
Well, the only reason I was doing it is because, you know what, I want to get the product myself. But if
We'll be talking about more of that.
oh yeah.
Can we please a warm welcome for Rivka?
Yes.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, you know, everything that could go wrong did go wrong, but now my friend Ronnie is going to be taping this because he tapes all of my adventures and then posts them on YouTube. So it's going to be part of a YouTube experience. And if you go to YouTube and you push in Ms. Rivka, you can see all of my things. I teach how to make yixing teapots and how to make paper coil pots and how to make now this is going to be how to do my paintings, and you'll see one of his pieces in a minute after I get started. So, and I guess some of you walked in the back, so you've seen my artwork, but today, last night I woke up, I was thinking I gotta paint a painting today. So I got up at around 4 in the morning and I had an idea finally. And I can't remember the name of the guy, maybe my roommate is, but there was a man that was talking on the radio about the beginning of the earth and what was really going on. You know, everybody wants to know really the beginning, what happened. That's why religion and all that. But I was listening, kind of doing my thing, painting. I don't know what I was doing, but I was listening, kind of and listening to the interview, and he was saying something about the reason that we have energy. Because, you know, we're all the same thing, protons, neutrons, electrons moving around, making electricity so that we can run our bodies. We're electric beings. He said that the universe is actually inside a black hole. and the sucking motion, the breathing in part is creating the electrical so that we can continue. So I'm like, well, that's a concept. And then I said, what happens when we get closer to the point of what's inside the black hole? And I was thinking, gosh, I was trying to think to myself, we're all these little light beings, right? We're all glowing energy. So maybe we'll all hold hands as it gets closer and closer, and then we'll just like realize who we are and then explode, and then that's like, so I'm thinking that maybe is the Big Bang Theory. But I don't know. Anyways, I've been thinking about that, and I woke up last night thinking, what is it like to be sucked into a black hole? So I got up this morning and got a canvas out, and I had that concept in mind. So when I come to a canvas, I know you're probably thinking, it's just whatever, a design or something like that, but this is how I start my work. I have an intention behind all my paintings. And so this is the energy of being sucked in, and so I'm going to go from there. What I want to do first is, since I'm a teacher and stuff like that, I have like the whole, I'm prepared. But one of the things, I guess, to describe me, somebody just recently asked me, are you married, are you straight, are you gay, are you single, are you divorced, or are you whatever, all these different things, but really those are none of the boxes that I can really check. The only box that I've been really comfortable ever checking when you want to know my status of a relationship is that I'm an artist. And we're in a box all of our own. And if you can't check the artist box, then you probably have a normal life, but I check the artist box, and so everything my brother always says, that if there's two roads to go down, I always chose the most difficult road. And it's true, every road I've ever chose has been the most difficult, but personally I think it has the most adventure. But there's a lot of struggles, and I've gone through a lot, so it helps me do my painting. I always have something to paint. And what I wanted to do is, I wanted to have you help me show you how I paint, because most people don't really know what a graffiti artist does, or when I was doing graffiti back in the 70s, I started in the 70s, so it was during the time of Samo and all those graffiti was like a drug thing, right? I mean, people think of graffiti and drugs. And so, but I was a mural painter ever since I was a little girl. My mom's let me paint every wall in any wall in the house that I wanted, my mom would let me paint. And she always supplied paint and everything, and I used to be painting, and I was really sick as a child, so I was, my parents gave me, my mom, not my dad. My dad was never, he was mostly in Africa at the time, but when I was growing up, my mom gave me supplies to keep me company, like, Frida Kahlo. So I had lots of supplies, and I was never without them, and so I just experimented with different things, being by myself in the room a lot. And one of the things that I like is poetry, but not just any poetry. I like children's poetry, and I also like Dada poetry. Those are my two favorite kinds of poems. And so what I kind of consider myself, if you don't know what a Dada poem is, it's like words that you gather, and then you throw it on the ground, and however it lands, that's the poem. So it's, yes, it's part of the whole Dada, thing that was going on during World War II, and Hitler, and the craziness of war, and what the heck's going on. And how artists are, we are a reflection of the society that we're in. So becoming a graffiti artist, I was always a punk, I shake my head, and the whole thing. And I would go to underground parties in LA and art school, so I had a lot of, I would go see ska bands and punk bands and all this kind of crazy stuff back in the 70s. And my experiences are from that generation, from the Andy Warhol kind of time on. But I've been instructed by my dad over here just by his collection. He's been collecting art his whole life, and he collects 17th, 18th, and 19th century art. And whenever he sees 20th century art, he'll get it, like, Picasso, this, and I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take that Dalí, whatever you don't want, I'll just take over here. Just bring it over here. And so he has all that, stuff that's like brown painting, and, like stuff that you make your own paints. And so I was inspired a lot by my dad's collections, and a lot of portraiture and things like that. So I always had art around me, and when I wanted to play, I would play with those statues, because I never got one of those dress-up Barbies. You know, the head, I always wanted one really bad, to put the makeup on and the clothes. So, you know, I have this, you know, 18th century, you know, female marble sculpture, and that was where I put my makeup on and dressed it, that was my toys. So my parents let me play with the art, and as long as I respected it. You know, so I was kind of around art, and my Aunt Betty, who was around since I was born, she basically was the magnet in our family. We have a huge, giant family of people, and she was my uncle's wife, and she became one of the early women in surrealistic art to be showing. She was a surrealist painter. And so she was the first woman to show at the Houston Museum of Modern Art back in the 50s. And I always was inspired by her. My parents would shove me in the plane and get on there and get to Texas every summer. And so she would try to, you know, there's lots of kids around her all the time because she was kind of an art teacher too, and we had a lot of cousins. So she would like take those beautiful hard plates made out of paper, you know, the kind of China kind or whatever, and she would take her Sharpie pens and, you know, and then I'd say, Aunt Betty, do something for me, and so she would, and then she'd hand it to me and go, okay, go color it, and it would keep me occupied for the whole day. And she'd give me those tiny little markers like, oh man. So she did some coloring books, and her coloring books were the very first time ever in the 50s. These are coloring books from the 50s. And if you remember in the 50s, it was like See John, you know, Bounce the Ball, The Boy with the Dog, things like that. So she was the very first surrealist artist to create something where anybody can color and it would look different every time. And so she sold her books, even though after she died, she still sold her books through her kids. And she made 7 books, and Chrysler and Sloan gave her a nickel for every book. And she has 4 kids. When she died, each one of her children collected, so it was a nickel a book. She got a nickel a book every time it sold. 4 of her kids, they all have $4.5 million at least from just the collection of nickels over the time period that she was. So I always was inspired by her, and so are all of my cousins. They're all artists or jewelers or whatever it is that they do. We're all inspired by my Aunt Betty. She was like the art of it. And then she died, and it was like, oh my gosh. So what happened is that I just started taking over and doing stuff just like her, and I was feeling embarrassed because I was copying, kind of like, you know what I mean? But it was just coming out of me. So I put stuff on the internet for my family to see, and they basically told me, if there's anybody that's going to take her place, it's got to be you. And I said, I don't even think about it. I just say, okay, I'm going to do it, and then it just comes out of me like she's drawing. You know, she's inspiring me. So when I started doing other things, because she does things in the line, coloring book line, and I don't really, you know, I mean, it's very, the line is great, but somebody told me one time at an art show, when are you going to get out of that black line? I'm like, never, I'm never going to leave a black line, you know. But then I decided that my goal when I moved up to the mountains here was to get out of the black line, because that is a thing that makes it comfortable to be able to color inside the line. And so here we have some people coming. I want to make sure that they. Hi, ladies. Hi. Welcome.
Oh.
Hi. Oh, you're so cute. Here, give me a minute. Oh, wait a minute. This one more radio. Okay. And then this one is like, yep, come on, sit right here. She needs a brace. Oh, I didn't need one, and I broke the thing. And people go, what's the bracelets all about? Because I'm going to turn off the lights and then we can have fun. And also, being a teacher, whenever I have first day of school, they all get something, and then they walk around and everybody knows that they're Ms. Rivka's, you know, students.
Have you ever used the teacher catalog?
I got these at the dollar store the other day.
Oh.
It's amazing what you can get at the dollar store. It's kind of embarrassing what you can get at the dollar store. It's like, it took a lot more than a dollar.
wants the necklace too, she wants an ensemble.
Okay, well, what we could do is we could put 3 together and get the whole thing going. So, a habit. And I like to paint during the day now instead of at night, and I like not having to run. And I've painted all over the world. I've done graffiti in Russia, Japan. I mean, in Japan, it's really hard to do it in Japan because everybody's watching you all the time. And in Mexico, if you go on Google, you can Google an address and you can see my work on walls. So, so I wanted to show you how I developed my graffiti style. And one of the things that, this is just the beginning, I just put this down. This is just the beginning, just to cover up the canvas so it's not white. I don't like working with white canvas, it's too intimidating. And I'll start by spraying something, and usually it's something big because I'm a graffiti artist, so I like to do big things. But I'm doing it small just to kind of show you. And then I use words, and you'll see in my pictures in just a minute how I use words to, like a Dada poem, and I create, with words I create the lines that intersect and play within the colors that weave everything together. So my words aren't words, they end up being like shapes and lines that are developed over, like layers and layers of paint to solidify it. And one of the things that I found about words is that everybody's attracted to them. No matter what age you are, if you see a word in a painting, even if you don't like that painting, you'll go right up to that word because we're used to reading. So what baloney? Why would you make that? And so, but bologna means one thing to me. Like, I think of bologna and sandwiches during kindergarten and peanut butter and jelly smells or whatever. You might think of bologna as when you go on picnics with your family, or maybe you're a vegetarian and bologna is bologna. But everybody comes to a word with their own background. So what bologna means to me doesn't mean the same thing to you. And so that's what I really like about words, is because I can put a word in there that means something to me, and it means something completely different to you. So everybody who comes to my painting sees something else, and words bring up feelings, smells, adventures, disappointment, sadness, happiness, emotion. So every word is something. So that's how I do my poetry. And my dad's a poet, and also, just so you know a little bit about my dad, he's the chief of Nigeria and the Ivory Coast. My dad's an African chief, so he's done most of his work in Africa with AIDS research and things like that. So he wasn't around, he always used to complain, why can't you draw like Rembrandt? Why can't you be like Michelangelo? I'm like, God, it's just like, Dad, I'm 5. So he would always like harass me, I mean, I'm at the kitchen table, I'd be drawing just for fun, and I'd be in tears because I can't get that like right there, can't get that right in the ear, and there's that little thing, can't you get it right? And so, he's very meticulous about anatomy. And so he's never seen my graffiti work ever. And then last month before I went to Mexico, I brought him a piece because he's like, what's this graffiti stuff? And then I showed it to him, and he basically said that I'm a genius. So it's like come a long way since I was like 4. Anyways, what I want to do is I want you to listen to this poem by Shel Silverstein, just because he's my favorite. And he was able to, in one tiny little poem, put together what my brain is like on paint. Like, what is it that's going on in my mind while I'm painting graffiti painting? Because you're probably thinking, oh, what's going on? But really, I'm really listening, and I'm tweaking things, and I'm selecting particular things, whatever comes into my mind and it just flows right into my painting. So I never know what I'm going to paint till the moment I start on the canvas. But I know I have an idea. So I want you all to listen. This is called Hector the Collector. And I don't know if you guys remember him when you were a kid, but this was my favorite poetry book. Hector the Collector collected bits of string, collected dolls with broken heads and rusty bells that would not ring, pieces out of picture puzzles, bent up nails and ice cream sticks, twisted wires and worn out tires, paper bags and broken bricks, old chip vases, half shoelaces, gauntlet guns that would not shoot, leaky boats that would not float, and stopped up horns that would not toot, buttered knives that had no handles, copper keys that fit no locks, rings that were too small for fingers, dried up leaves and patched up socks, worn out buckles that had worn out belts that had no buckles, electric trains that had no tracks, airplane models, broken bottles, three-legged chairs, and cups with cracks. Hector the collector loved these things with all his soul, loved them more than shining diamonds, loved them more than glistening gold. Hector the collector called to the people, come and share my treasure trunk. And all the silly, sightless people came and looked and called it junk. So, I know, it makes me cry. Because it's so personal, because I always think that my work is junk, but you'll see my junk in the back room. And I put like a really fun prices on them. I decided that I'm getting rid of this collection because I'm starting a whole new collection at the Moment Gallery, and so everything's at bargain basement artist to artist friend prices at this today only. I already sold 2 pieces because people were like, oh my gosh, you're selling stuff for so cheap. So I already kind of sold 2 paintings yesterday because of that, so you're going to be 2 paintings left to look at. So what I want to do is I want to show you how I put my artwork in, how I get words into the artwork. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to have each one of you kind of help me participate. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, hand out, here, take any piece of paper, it doesn't really matter. And I just, in the middle of the night, here, if you want a bigger one, you can. That's too small. Okay, so just take any piece of paper. They're all different shapes. I just got up at 4 in the morning and cut them out. Yeah, just take one. Because that's all you'll need. Okay. Yeah, I just cut them out. Okay, so take any shape you want. Oh, that's a tiny one. Here, take this cool bottle shape. Alright, take a shape, doesn't matter. Alright, and one of the any shape you want, it doesn't matter. Okay, and then there's oh, you know what? See how it is? Today's one of those kind of things. Oh, look at that one. Looks like it's for you. Okay. All right. I should have a little box. Okay, so choose a, that's okay. I'm not going to worry.
This is you bent this one so you could see what we drew. Give me a shape.
Okay. Has everybody got a shape?
Over here. Right here. One more.
Okay. Here's a shape.
I don't like my shape.
Absolutely. Okay.
There's 2 levels. I need a bigger.
Okay. All right. Because artists need
There it
shapes.
comes. Everybody needs shape. I'll take
All
that.
right. Okay, take that one on the ground. Okay. Please help. Okay. Now you're probably going, what are we going to do with these shapes? What is she, a teacher or something? Yes, I'm a teacher. I'm going to give you a big Sharpie and a medium Sharpie. And the great thing about being a teacher is that I'm in control of the supplies, which means you have to work with what I give you, and that's kind of like my paintings. You have to, let's give you that one. You have to work with what I give you to be creative. Here, Dad. Okay, here's a Sharpie. Here's a Sharpie. And this is all going to be part of my painting. So just so you guys know. All right, if the Sharpie doesn't work, just tell me. The first thing I want you to do is, I know that you don't have books or anything to write on, but if you write your name on the back, I'm gonna do a drawing, and whoever wins gets a awesome prize. So go ahead and write your name on the back just so that we know who you are, and then I'll choose one. The prize is so awesome that I might have to. Oh, you decide which one is the front.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
It wasn't that cup you broke.
Okay, so one of the things about words, I could read you another poem, but I think that you guys are, you're good, right? You've kind of got an idea of words, right? Unless you want me to read one more poem to inspire you. What I want you to do is, when I start painting, I just turn on the radio, or I just start thinking about stuff, and then all of a sudden things come to my mind, and I might think of garden. like this morning, I woke up going, oh, I want to do this kind of thing. I cut these papers out this morning at 4:30, and I was kind of thinking about how am I going to do it for my own self, and so I was thinking garden. I'm like, what a boring word. What about dandelions? And then I was thinking, you know, when dandelions, when you blow it, make a wish, because I'm really into wishes. So I thought, dandelion wish, I like that. It's better than garden. So what I did is I just took my Sharpie and I filled the space and I wrote dandelion wish. So I actually filled the shape. So what I want you to do is I want you to, it could be anything. It could be an emotion, it can be a thing in your kitchen drawer, it could be something in your house, it could be an adventure, it could be a person, it could be a feeling, it could be any word in the entire world. And I want you to just think of it right now. Just think of it right now. Right now. Whatever word comes to your head. Now if you're not happy with that word, think about how that word relates to something else that you remember in life. Like if you, whatever it is, if you're thinking Golden Gate Park and that's like too long, then you can think red or the bridge or fog or whatever it is, and then something else. And what I want you to do is take whatever word that you've manifested from that instant word that came into your head and kind of think about it in another way if you don't like it. And then you can either write a word or you can write like 2 or 3 words, like if you want to write eat dessert first, you know, whatever you want. But it has to fit in that space somehow. So you have 1 minute. And just remember, Sharpie pen doesn't come out of your white pants. So maybe we should put it on that for you. And you know, really use the letters, because graffiti is all about the letters. It's all about creating letters. And oh my God, this man that just came in is one of the best artists in the world. Here, come over here. Oh my God. Okay, Patch, this is what I want you to do. You have to come up with a word or a couple words, and I'm sure you can. And maybe it might be grandserver or whatever it is, but I want you to come up with a word or a feeling. Why can't I do this one? There we go. A word or a feeling can be anything you want, and you have to fill the space. So I chose dandelion wish because my first thought, and then my first word, what's the first word that comes into your mind?
Mountain.
Okay, now is mountain something exciting for you?
Yes, travel.
Okay, so mountain travel, maybe it could be, maybe you can make your word say mountain travel or whatever. Use a Sharpie. And then, and whatever words you give me, remember that's what's going to be in the painting, because I'm going to let you paint with me in a way. Yeah, you can paint with me, it doesn't matter. Okay. And so, if you choose, and you need to fill the shape. Because when I'm painting my paintings, let's see, let's put yours like in a, I don't think I can get it around your wrist. Or just your wrist. There you go. All right. And no, you don't have to draw any pictures. It's all about the word. Just the word. Yeah. And when you're done, just put it. You can just put it in this box, and then I'll take it from there. And then and you can put your Sharpies in there because I count them at the end of the period. And she's still working. And
She said you
here
don't
you
have
go.
I don't believe this is actually my Sharpie I gave him.
Okay, I believe you. I love your word. Oh my gosh. Oh, I already see. I love artists.
markers.
Oh, markers.
Here, I got one for you.
Okay, and then here we go. And I'll be using these words throughout the lecture. Okay, here we go. And then your pen has to put you have to put the battery cap back on. There. Okay, Dad, did you come up with a word? Yep. Did you write it yet? Okay. Okay, while my dad's finishing up writing words and stuff like that, I'm going to tell you about some other books that inspired me. My most first book ever was McElligott's Pool, and it's a Dr. Seuss book, and this one's from 1954. It was a hand-me-down from my brother. But the story is about a boy who sits in front of a pool, and people are like, why are you like even bothering to go? Nobody catches fish there. They'll catch a boot, or they'll catch trash, or whatever is in the pool. But in the end, he goes, you never know. If you wait here long enough, you never know what you might catch. So as, you know, maybe this pool's attached to something, an underground stream, and all sorts of, you know, going under the town, and who knows, it might go out to the ocean, and then before you know it, you know, fish are going, hey, this way to McGillicud's pool. See, there's the sign. Let's go. And so you never know what kind of fish. So he went through, you know, what kind of fish there might have. He might catch like a dogfish or a catfish, or, you know. So all these. So this was what I was raised with, was drawings like this. You know, Dr. Seuss was really big back then. That was all they. So it was like when I started looking through this book over and over and over and over again, because, you know, I started drawing like these fanciful fish. Like, you know, there's more to just a fish than just what you see on, you know, in a regular book. You can have fantasy. So I was already trained by Dr. Seuss to start thinking way out of the box. And so I want to take, the first thing I want to do is we'll put these in here, because you know what, this was in the back. I wonder how it works. Oh, here it goes. It was in the classroom. I'm like, oh, I've always wanted one of these. Oh, my dad. Okay. This is so fun. See, and I haven't even started showing you my artwork, and you're already involved. Oh, okay. So, what I decided to do is, you know, whether I finish it now, I don't know if it will go around. Will it go around? Oh! What's with this quality control here?
Let me work on this.
Okay, you work on that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to...
I have no clue how to do it.
I'm going to let him fix that. And, oh, there's one that came out, so we want to make sure everybody's in the contest here.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Okay, let's see.
And there's
It looks
some
like it
stuff.
turns. Oh, I see what it does. You
Yeah,
know
it
what it
turns.
It goes like this and you go.
It's a bingo thing.
You turn it this way, and then it locks under here.
That's so cool. Okay, so mix it up. Mix it up. Okay, and then, you know, since you're over there, you might as well pick the person that's going to win the painting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, wait, close your eyes, because you might be able to see yours. It's like, hey,
And to win the painting. There we go. Oh, this looks like a good one.
Okay, blissful friend. So
So
you're
Dal,
going to
you
get my
won.
painting tonight, and if I don't finish giving my painting to you, then put your phone number on here so I can call you, and I will send you the painting when it's finished. So since
All right, then.
before I get started with my slideshow, I'm just going to show you how I work. So she's already chose the first word. So I'm just going to start writing, you know, what I want, and I'm going to write it the way I want. So I'm going to just create bliss, and I love eyes. And, you know, I'm dyslexic, so I never know if it's spelled right, and it's usually not. People always tell me, I'm like, then it's an original. And blissful, and then friend. So maybe I'll put that right here. Friend. Okay, and you're thinking, well, that's really great, but, you know, it doesn't turn me on yet. But wait till I continue. So, blissful friend, and this is going to be the person that I'm going to get the phone number for so I can finish this painting and make it actually fun. So, do you see how I just kind of work in words? And I work it, you know, it's kind of looking at the shape here, and I wanted to go with it. Now, remember, my paintings are never painted in one direction. They're constantly being turned. They're constantly, I'll paint in all four directions. So before I, you know, add any more words and stuff like that, I want to get going. But I just want to, like, remember, it's not just about words. It's about being able to use your painting, understanding of painting and composition. So remember, it's all about the three, right? Everybody knows that. It's all about three. It moves your eyes around. So here's one, here's two, and I'll put a third thing here. And I'm just going to use the color 3. I'm going to use this color, and there you have 3 things. 1, 2, 3. So your eyes are moving around the painting, and it's not going anywhere. And I have a little bit of extra paint, so I'm going to put it right there. So that's kind of how I think. I don't really think about anything until it's right there going to be put on the canvas. And so I'm going to work on this with your words, and And then I'll just keep going and going and going, and then I will send that to you in the mail.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for participating. Okay, so that's how I think. Things come in, I put them on the canvas, it's done. And I never read it after that. It's in fact, the lady that bought some of my paintings from yesterday, I was reading the painting for the first time, and every time you read my paintings, it becomes a different Dada poem, because you see words in different ways. So there might be 45 words in the painting, and you'll read them one way, and then the next time you'll read them another way and start a different way, so it's constantly an ever-changing poem. So there you go. Now, one of the things that I'm famous for is my my painting on different things besides canvases, and one of the things that I do is I paint on surfboards. And so my roommate, who's an artistic video artist. The video artist. I always want to call him a cinematographer because his work is just great, and he went to school so for that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit about me through him, how he saw me when I was doing this surfboard before I went back down to Mexico. So let's see if we can get it to work, because we're going to hope it works. Hi, my name is Rivka. I'm an artist. I paint on all sorts of surfaces, but my favorite surface is painting on surfboards, and I want to introduce myself to the world. I'm a graffiti post-pop surrealist artist, so I bring that factor of the way I see the world into my boards. And I like to do personalized boards, so this is a XXX surfboard. This person wanted their name on it. Pedro, he's a surf instructor in Puerto Vallarta, and he has a business, P&P Adventures. He has like 20 surfboards, but this is his first Rivka design. And he gave me some ideas, and you'll see in the structure of the way I paint, you'll see, here he is surfing. And here's his house. So I try to bring in things that relate to the person that I'm doing the board for. And these boards are covered with an incredible clear coat that is for cars. It's a triple coated board and highest quality you could have. I paint the fronts and the backs, or just the fronts, just the backs. And this piece is just, I wanted it to be like oceany, and he loves octopuses and turtles, and he eats crabs and takes people on these adventures all over. So I want, and these are all the different places down here where he takes people. So when they come to his lessons, they can see a little bit more of how somebody has painted his life. If you want to contact me about having a board painted for you, you can email me, and then we'll talk to each other and we'll get all the specifics about your life and what you want on your boards, and think of words, concepts, and then leave it up to me. Thank you for looking at my boards. short break?
Let's
or you
take a
want-
short break, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Woof. Oh, I love this woof.
That's okay. That's either
Go
way.
this way.
Did you get somebody to do?
I'm gonna give you my name and number. And
Yeah, I have it. I have this. All I just need is your phone number.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. And my address, don't you need that? Or-
Yeah, your address would be really good because then I can just mail it to you. But I want to call you to tell you I'm going to mail it to you. So do you have any particular colors that you really love in your home?
yeah, I like red in it.
Okay, red.
Yeah.
So red is the color that you want me to like specifically
Yeah.
work on.
If you could.
Okay.
I like.
So like this red.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I love it.
And then, okay, so, and clean clutter removal. Oh, I like that. So,
You know what? When he drew me, I knew that he's gonna know me.
really?
Is that weird or what?
No, it's,
I wanted to say, it's mine.
so what I'm doing is I'm just starting out the painting, and if you go in the back room,
Clutter.
that was what was on there. So in the back, you can kind of see how my paintings end up.
Okay.
So,
All right.
So I'll just let you, enjoy back there, and I'll work for a few minutes, and then I'll come back there with you guys.
It went good, Ruby. I'm gonna just back this up a little bit. Put it in the light.
Sensual. Ooh. Okay. And the one thing I like about my painting is that if you want to, you can, if you're feeling inspired, I'll give you the brush and you can paint on my painting. So if you want to play. Yeah, just acrylics because it dries. What is this thing? To Wi-Fi. Well, Wi-Fi, I understand that.
Hey, Joe. Let's make something look very pretty.
Intruders.
The show, is it gonna be here?
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Tonight, Richard?
you?
Good, I'll introduce myself. My name's Kuna Wiederhold.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I came to check out your art. It's great.
Oh, thank you. So in the back you kind of see, so I'm sort of showing you how I develop my style, and then I'll show you pictures of.
Great.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Sorry I got here a little late.
No, it's okay because it's all good. And so, like, what I do to keep my paintings like really fresh is I constantly move. And I love this one. What does this say? Wakatu. I love it. Whatever it is, I'm gonna.
Let me tell you what it says.
Yeah. What does it say?
What you doing? What you talking about?
Oh, what you talking about? Okay. All right. Very cool. I'm gonna put that one right here. Let's see. It's kind of wet still. How about this? What? I like the way you spelled it, however you did.
Yeah, it came out like, I can't spell either.
What you talking about? I love it. B-O-U-T. And then when I paint, I try to like bring the colors, you know, in wherever I'm painting so that it's sort of, people say that my work would look really good on fabric because it's so, you know, design looking. Okay, so
Rivka, you mentioned 52 books you illustrated.
52 children's books, yes.
Did you write those books?
I illustrated for the Teddy Ruxpin Company, and then I illustrated for Jim Henson, the Muppet Babies and all that. So I was working for Alchemy too during the 80s, and I got to work with all the famous. I worked with Art Patella, who was working on Pink Panther for 12 years. So when I was working with Art, I was in charge of color, and when I did my first show, the first thing I did is, I did everything in pink, not knowing that he really hates pink. So when it came to like looking at my work to make sure it was okay for the particular show, he said, "Pink, I hate pink. Don't you ever use pink as long as you're working for me." They're like, "Whoa, this guy's like really emotional about pink." And then I found out he was the Pink Panther. That's all the color they ever used in the show for 12 years. So it was, and then I got to work with, at side by side with all my friends who are all now like the president of Disney, because we were just nobody back then, but now we're the old people. So I got to work with Douglas McCarthy and Patrick Ventura and all the famous, animators from Disney, like a lot of people. And so, and one of the shows that I worked on that you were talking about was Ghostbusters. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like when somebody was talking about Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So what I do is I just keep, layering and layering. So this painting could have 30 layers depending on, my whatever I want to do.
Right.
So she likes red, so I'm going to try to put his like a red, and then I'll balance it out later. But I'm going to make sure.
She told me she knew I was going to pick her number.
That's what she said. So I'm like,
She goes, I knew it, I could feel it.
see how it is? Oh, look, this looks like my dad's writing. You can't read it. Oh, but I see what it says. So I'll put it right here. Oh, this is so cool. I think this says house.
It says mouse.
Mouse, that's even better. Because I love rats and mice. this say? Evolution? Evolve. Evolve? E-V-O-L-V-E. I like that one. Evolve. Probably get some more white paint. Okay. SAP Life. I wonder what that means. Joe Nunes. Well, I'll just put SAP. Maybe he'll be able to tell us. Okay.
Rivka, I'm gonna go get the children.
Okay, and then I'll continue.
Yeah, just keep on painting.
Rest, sunshine, rain, joy. Oh, I like that one, joy. Somebody's got it going on. Rest, rain. Oh, I like rain. Doing the best breeze. Yes.
Can I talk to you while you're painting?
Huh?
Can I
Yeah.
talk to you? How much are little bookmarks over there? Little paintings. They're little mini ones.
They're free.
Oh, should I tell people they're free?
Yeah, they can take whatever they like of my bookmarks. tell me, and then I'll turn off the lights. And you guys, those bookmarks and everything that, you know, those little pieces that are in lamination, those are for you to take whatever you want. It's free. It's kind of just my little gift for coming and watching me. You can take whatever you like. And it's just my, ooh, we're back at the blissful. So let's, since that's her word, let's kind of, is everybody back yet? Or I still hear some clattering back there.
The important ones are back.
Hi, ladies. Okay, I've tried. Oops, be careful as you walk. Okay, is everybody back? Okay, she'll do a last little checking to see if there's anybody else. Okay, so while you guys were eating cookies, I was just taking your words and putting them into the painting. And this is just the second layer. I usually do about 18 layers of paint. So this is just basically the beginning of my painting. So this is the second layer. And this is how I work. Just in layers. And then I just keep cleaning it up and cleaning it up and getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So when you walked in the back, you see how the paintings end up looking. You know what I kind of mean now? So does this make sense? And it's really fun. I don't think that painting is a drag. I love to paint because basically I hope that my computer didn't like this. Okay. Oh, the question is how you know when you're done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but reminding me. Found, what's this found thing? What's that found? All right, so while you guys were, you know, looking at my art and having whatever coffee and stuff that's in there, I just went and I just started taking all the words that you gave me and starting to put them in the painting. And then I'm going to go further and further and further, because I usually do about 18 layers before I'm done. And Patch, who used to be somebody that I would work with closely in school, I'm not going to lie, Patch Keynes is the person that inspired me to paint this way. And if it wasn't for Patch, one day I came into the back room, he had his own little studio back there, and he's all painting these things that he calls gray observers, and they're like little gray fish sort of shapes. And anyways, it was always something physical that looked like something. And then one day I came back and I gave him a bunch of paint, and I came back fourth period just to check on him, and he had done the most amazing painting I've ever seen come out of a student ever in the history of my teaching. And I was like, oh my God, I'm amongst like an indigo child. This kid is like 15 years old and he's painting this miraculous painting. And he went from that painting and moved forward, and I kind of stole the idea of layering. Like, I always layered, but I never knew the extent of layering until I met Patch. And then he started doing the mosquito paintings, and then he started using the golden section in all of his work and creating these pieces that were like layer and layer and layer. And so I was blown away by a 15-year-old kid, because I knew that I couldn't show in a gallery, but I'm sure he'll be in a museum before he ends up out of high school. And he did. He started showing at the Fresno Art Museum, and he showed at the Stephen Stagos Gallery and the Timberline Gallery by the time he was 17 years old. And he came into my class. Basically, I go, what are you doing here, Patch? Because the first project he was doing, he just went beyond and above the call of duty and did this Vincent van Gogh painting, and he didn't even know who Vincent van Gogh was. He just started painting, and I'm like, this is incredible, and it has nothing compared to the other kids. I'm like, what are you doing in here? And he goes, I'm going to be a physicist. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're going to be an artist. And he goes, no, I'm just taking this class to get out of school. And I asked him what grade he was in. He said he was a freshman. I'm like, how did you get into my class? You're not allowed to be in my class as a freshman. So the next year, I didn't know what to do with him, because he was amazing. So I just put him into Art 3. I just jumped him up to Art 3 and Studio Art, and that's when he started creating his portfolio. But he is a great inspiration for me. I'm really glad you're here. It's just like an honor to have you in this thing. So, okay, so my roommate has gratefully fixed my my whole system here because it wasn't working.
Would you talk about the kind of paint that you use?
I use different kinds of paint depending on what I'm painting. If I'm doing with this painting, with this kind of painting, I always start with spray paint, so it's just enamel. But I don't do small. I do huge. I like people to like have to walk past my paintings. You know, I like big things. So that's that's my. Yeah, it's kind of slippery over there. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm like flexible and I don't break. So although everything else around me does.
Okay, so these in the bottles are what?
Those are acrylic paints, and the reason why I like to paint with acrylic when I'm doing my graffiti styles is that it dries right away and I can layer. But when I want to do portraits, I've tried a few portraits in acrylic, but basically I like to use oil because you want to blend and make it look nice. And watercolors I teach, but it's not my favorite medium unless I'm doing a graffiti style, and I just finished some paintings for the Hilton Hotel down in Puerto Vallarta, and I did it all in watercolor because that's what I just happened to have watercolor paper with me. I didn't know I was going to paint paintings for them, and I just brought my watercolors and my gouaches. And so it depends on what I'm painting, but I use all the mediums: watercolor, acrylic, gouache, oil, and enamel. And when I was going to college, Saul Bernstein, who was my teacher, told me you could never, ever, ever layer acrylics over oils. Never. Don't even try, because I don't care what he said. I'm doing it, and I've never found any resistance. This is acrylic right over enamel, and normally that would just peel off, right? That's what your teachers all say, but it's not true. So I mix my media.
Well, you haven't given it enough time to peel off, maybe.
Well, I put at the end I put a protective coat that seals the whole piece. No, but you can go down there and scrub those paintings. Nothing's going to ever come off of them. So I'm hoping that my PowerPoint will show you a little bit more about who I am. And so I'm going to, hopefully it'll work. Hopefully. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, all right. So I'm going to put on this music and turn off some lights so that you can kind of, have a little, hopefully it'll work. I don't know. Is it playing? Okay. All right, so I created this slide lecture for you. People always ask me what inspires me to do my artwork, and basically I'm introducing you to my Aunt Betty. This is what she did. She basically painted on everything back then in the 50s. Refrigerator, boats, whatever she could. This happened to be a tool shed, but her work was extremely unusual at the time period during the 40s and 50s when she was starting to develop. And she was one of the surrealistic painters of the time. After the big surrealistic movement started finishing up, she was taking it on the next leg. You know, those young artists that were studying under the main artists that came over from Germany to the United States from World War II, like Eva Hesse. One of the things about my art is you have to be totally open-minded, and if you're not open-minded, you're not going to like my art. I brought home a painting the other day to show my dad, and the first thing he said is, "I hate it." And I'm like, "Really? Why?" And he goes, "It's a skeleton." I'm like, "But Giorgio O'Keeffe thought skeletons were like life. It's the opportunity of having life. You can't have life if you don't have a skeleton." So, and also I paid for the Dia de los Muertos, and all of a sudden I switched his thinking from, like, ooh, I don't like scary things to, oh, Dia de los Muertos, what's that? And I show at the Fresno Museum every year the Arte de Americas, and I show in Hornitos doing my Dia de los Muertos stuff. So I've been raised open-minded, like I told you, and I can say that if it wasn't for my parents, I probably wouldn't be as open-minded as I am. Of course, you know that I'm a graffiti artist and I like to work big, and the reason why I like working big is because I don't like wearing glasses. I hurt myself really bad when I was 24 years old and they had to reconstruct my face. So wearing glasses has been always a drag, but I need them now that I'm 53. And I can't see, so doing big is easier for me. Do you remember that movie called The War Between Men and Women, when that artist guy was a cartoonist? And then he went blind, and he was going crazy because he couldn't paint, couldn't see. And so one day he was sitting in his bed, and he had a big white wall in a corner, and he took like a roll of material and lit it on fire and burnt it, and then he took it and he started drawing his cartoons really big on the wall so he could see them. And he's really, actually, it's a real story, a true story, but I don't know the name of the artist. And then he started putting the people in blenders. And did you see that movie back in the 60s? Anyways, it really inspired me later on. And I just came home from Mexico, and my friend was watching TV, and he said, "Rivka, there's a graffiti festival going on, and they're going to give prizes, cash prizes." I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, okay, whatever." And he said, "Let's go down." So I went down. And this is just half of the wall, and he painted all the way to the end, and then there's the other half of the wall that went that way. It was a huge wall, and there was almost 30 artists painting the wall when the contest started, and they were all under the age of like 25, because graffiti is a young kind of thing. And so I had all these kids around me. I felt like I was in school again. All my students were hanging out, and I'm thinking, this is really not fair for me to be in a contest. I'm just going to do what I want to do and let them do what they want to do. They can win their money. I just want to do it for the experience and giving the town a present. And the thing about the wall, that I chose this part of the wall because I had a compassion for this particular part, and I liked the situation where the streets came together, so wherever you were, you would see my work first. And when I do graffiti, I like to find a good spot to graffiti. I like to do trains and buildings and things, but this is legal. I mean, there were cops right behind me watching the whole time for 6 hours while I was painting, so it was totally legal. And what I wanted to do is create something for that town, and the name of the town is called Las Juntas, which means coming together. And the Las Juntas is right next to the Puerto Vallarta airport, and the mountains that come down from St. Sebastian, the two rivers come together before the mouth at Puerto Vallarta comes together at Las Juntas, and then it comes and flows out. So I wanted to do something with the story of the town, of the coming together of the rivers and the ocean and the life. So the first thing I did is I wanted to create a word, and I chose Jah, like Jehovah, Jah Rastafari, because that's what I'm into. But I chose the Jah, and then I started to put my design inside of the letters and create an image. It was really, really hot. I started at like 10 o'clock, and it was really hot in Mexico, and the white was up against me, and I was almost passed out. And I didn't want anybody to know I was passing out, but my friend says, you need some water. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna like faint right now. And then my friend, Pedro, came up after a while, and he just opened up an umbrella, and he stood there for like 5 hours and kept me under like cool air so that I didn't pass out, because you know, I'm not like those young kids that were painting. And here I am at the last, you know, filling in the last little bit of spray so that I can, you know, really power it up. And that was the final piece. And when I stand on the piece, I stand about right here. So I had to use a ladder. It's a pretty tall wall. And then we were kind of, when my friend said that I was painting, and she said at all times, because you know I was facing the wall for 6.5 hours, I never looked around. And she said at all times there was at least 25 to 50 kids sitting on the side rock right here watching me paint. And when they chose the awards, you know, I was just like, yeah, whatever, you know. When they chose for second, third place, and then I'm like, I didn't win that. Okay, I'm definitely a loser. And then second place, oh, they didn't choose me. Like, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm just doing this for fun. And then they first place, and then they said Rivka, and I'm like, so, and they chose me because they said that you could walk right into my work. It's not like everybody else's where you look at it, you become part of it, and kids were walking across the wall, like putting their hands on my work the whole way, so it becomes an interactive part because there's all those things that relate to them. I also, while I was there, decided to do some pro bono work because I feel that everybody has the right to have art. So I was going into the barrios of Mexico and stopping at people's houses and saying, do you want me to paint, you know, something on your house? And so these people let me paint, and it takes me about 10 minutes to do the painting, and the kids are all around, and I say, okay, what color do you want? These are the colors I have right now on my palette, and so I do doorways all over. So that's like one of the things that I like to do just for fun. And it was like a 10-minute job, and then it just totally dressed up their whole house. I like to paint big, of course, as you know, and so I have this whole series that I do of words, and so this particular word obviously is pretty well known and used over and over again, but this word's like 16 feet long by 8 feet tall, and it resides now in Mexico. I also like to paint small. So, you know, like I told you before, whether I paint really big or I paint really small, people are still attracted to my work because there's words in it. And I know that you might not see it right now, but if I flip this picture and look, you can see it. It says dance this way. And then this right here, you know, this right here says lakeside view. And right here, this is beach walk. So when you were looking at the painting there, you can see that my words, even though that they're not actually like really visual, sometimes they're very creative and looking, they are there. And then my dog, Eva, she's my favorite dog in the world, and it says there, Eva, dog, CCCP, because I'm Russian. I also paint with special children, and this is a painting that I started down in Mexico with a child that didn't speak, and he was totally retarded, but one of the things that he could do was paint. So I would go to the canvas, then I would sit down, and then he would go to the canvas, and he picked out his own everything, like all my paints. He just picked them out, and remember, he's only 5. And we would go back and forth. I'd sit, he would paint, then he would sit, and I would paint. We went back and forth. So this is a development of that. And I showed at the John Bach Gallery when I first came back from Mexico, and he's like, I love these pieces, let's hang them. And I said, the centerpiece is not finished. And he goes, let's hang it anyway. I ended up finishing it, and it's in there, the pistachio painting. And the other painting I just sold yesterday made me ever. I like the way my work can work in triplicate, you know, like this triptych, or it can work by itself. My main person that I've been, he's my man. I mean, he's kind of like my husband in a way. When I went to college, I majored in color theory, and Joseph Albers was my man. And he taught me about how making colors to create emotion, and putting one color next to another is going to change the color. And it's okay to use a black line. Or black is a really great color because you can put any color you want on the other side of that black line and it will work. And so what I wanted to do is kind of show you some of the black line work that I started with my Aunt Betty kind of series here. People always said, Rivka, when are you going to get out of the black line? Some people come up to me and they say, I want you to paint a portrait. So this one lady wanted me to paint a pop portrait of her, and she wanted it to be like Andy Warhol's, Marilyn Monroe, all that gold. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm never gonna get that gold in oil. So I painted this one in acrylic, and it's like huge piece. She's a lawyer. This is when I was young and a child, and I was working in oils. But this is Faye White Mountain and Suzanne Lewis. So I do portraitures, all along ever since I was like 18. I also like to do portraiture not in the typical paint that we would all know. This piece was, I had an opportunity of photographing the Fresno dance troupe in Oakhurst, and it was a freezing cold February day with snow, and they were all dressed in sarongs and tights. I can't even believe that they were in the water, and so we photographed them, and then I took my imagery instead of using it straight up, and I wanted to create it into an art piece. So every single pixel in this entire image has been altered in Photoshop. So I used the smear tool and I smeared it to make it look like it's a painting. And those people really didn't look like that. I mean, I'd really changed it a lot, but you can do a lot with different kinds of tools. And I had the opportunity of meeting the Dalai Lama, so I took a picture of him and I drew him. And he came to my school. We had an exchange of students. From his students, I got his students, and he got mine for 3 months. And then came back to our school. And like every artist, you have to paint a self-portrait, or else everyone paints their self-portrait. So here is mine. I used to do them in class with my kids. They do their portraiture, so I decided this time I'm going to tackle them myself. And I really never wanted to, because braids, there's a lot of pencil work in braids. Each braid took me half an hour, just like doing those little. And I also like to do portraits of things. So this is a portrait of somebody's kitchen in San Francisco. That scene doesn't exist anymore. They tore down that whole kitchen and redesigned it. But one of the things I don't like to use is black. I don't use black in anything but in my acrylics. My acrylic paint's the only thing I will use black in. Otherwise, I create my blacks by developing layers and layers. So this is a Prismacolor pencil, and those blacks is probably like 30 colors of Prismacolor pencil layered and layered and layered. And when you look at the real thing, it has like a total depth in the black. I like to build up my blacks. And I like to do watercolor just to prove that I can paint. People are like, oh, graffiti, that's not a real art form. But I'm a rebel that's being respected now. I feel like when I make my art that I don't care what anybody thinks. I just feel that I'm limitless. I'm weightless. My artwork is timeless. I know that my art reflects the society that I'm in, but I feel like when I'm painting, I almost feel like I'm floating. And I hate copying other people's artwork, especially like people that you all know. And George O'Keeffe happened to be a favorite artist of this one lady, and I had the opportunity to be paid to paint like George O'Keeffe, and so I got in her bathroom and I started doing her George O'Keeffe flowers, and then they had the duvet and the toilet put in, to finish up the bathroom. So I do things for money, but it's just all part of being an artist. Sometimes you can't just create. I like to travel to Russia. That's where my family's from. And what's really great about Russia is this is their capital. It's not the White House. Look at it. It looks like they're in Disneyland. Like, what's going on in Russia? Why are they having such a cool red square and we have this boring white building? So, I really love traveling, because when I travel, you'll see, I know that you saw some books back there, and I like to paint what I do. So here's a painting from the Red Square, and you can see, the buildings and stuff there, and then those were the people that I was walking around with at the time. And we went to a music festival that lasted for a week, and we camped out with 150,000 people. So I tried to put in what was going on. And then I also traveled to Mexico, and a lot, sometimes 3 to 4 times a year, depending on if I'm a teacher or not. But anyways, I go there, I experience something, I go on the beach and I paint. And everybody maestro de arte that comes to Mexico and paints, because I'm there all the time. Everybody kind of knows who I am. And I paint what I do. So the night before, I was invited to a huge party of Mexicans, and this guy in the middle here, his name's Rafael, and he is the owner of all of the people. He's the head of the union for all of the waitresses and the hotel workers and all that kind of stuff. So he invited his entire crew to celebrate his 60th birthday party. I was the only white girl. 1,000 people, 3,000 people showed up. And when I left, I got to hug him and kiss him, and he hugged and kissed every single person at his party. So this is called Rafael's birthday party. And also I paint where, like, I went down to Colima. I'm a surfer, so my friend takes me surfing, and I go to different places, and he sets up my table and gets me all prepared while he goes and surfs, and I'll paint what I see. And we went to the turtle garden in Colima, and this particular turtle right here, I actually gave her a massage because I'm a massage therapist. So I went under the shell, and she was pushing herself in, and I was massaging underneath her shell. I never felt a turtle before, and she pushed herself into me for about 20 minutes before they closed it. Well, you gotta leave. I'm like, well, she's not done with her massage yet. And of course, I travel all over the United States doing Dia de los Muertos shows, and so here was an exhibit that I did in Austin. That's the front, and here's the wall outside to bring you into the show. I did the Hornito show, and John Bach always welcomes me there because I'm the best skeleton painter, I suppose. I don't know. So that's my piece on the bottom. I don't know how it got there. He just didn't ask me. And this piece happens to be on a drawer in somebody's boudoir. And then I'll paint bigger pieces, and when you look at my work close up, you'll see it's full of thousands of words. So the little details in the pink background, when you go up on it, you can see all of my graffiti, and it even inside the skeleton. I know it's a kind of a weird screen, but you can see words like mi corazón down his spine. And I try to do religious things when I do Dia de los Muertos. So the Father is the eye, the Son is the skeleton, and the Holy Spirit is that heart with the fire, and then there's the 12 disciples, the fishermen of men. Oops, I guess I should do it here. And then you saw this one. This one's called the Casa de Dios Dice Siempre, which means house of the Lord forever. And you can kind of see the same thing, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and the fishermen of men. And this one was called the Trinity and the 12, so those are the 12 skeletons, are the 12 disciples, and then the Trinity is that heart with the flame, and then God holding it all together. And then here we are, fish, being fished. I started getting religious because I was thinking, you know what, I want to just do some fun things. So I'm a surfer, so this one's called Soul Surfer. And, this one was just called Skull Seaweed. I think I did this one with my students because I told them they had to paint something with skulls, and it had to be some sort of, incredible thing. So I decided to take my seaweed series, my Aunt Betty style psychedelic seaweed, and the top of those seaweeds are the skulls. And I didn't do this, my Aunt Betty did, and I was surrounded by this work when I went to Texas, and so she would take things, she got this in the trash at a thrift store and then painted it, so you can see that my work kind of is so inspired by her. And this was the first painting I did when I asked my cousins if it was okay to paint like my aunt. And this one I painted for Terrence Reimer, who is a photographer that photographed the Route 66 from all the way from the East Coast all the way down to the ocean, and he did a book, and so I painted Route 66 as if it would be underwater. I did this on 9/11 in class. It's called Unity. I was just blown away by what happened. I thought it was some fake TV show, turned it off, and then I found out that the towers went down, and the principal's like, don't let the kids know. And I'm like, don't let the kids know. They all know. By fourth period, kids were insane. We couldn't teach. And so, I was just working on paintings, and the kids got together and did something outside all as a school that day. And you can see that no matter what I use, this is painting on silk. So, it doesn't matter what I paint on, my style is always there, and there's always that kind of line work around it. This one's called Oak Trees and Electric Guitar. And when my mom died, I did this piece and it sold, but this one's called Charlotte's Garden. She just really liked my work, and she liked color, and she liked gardening, so, you know, I just did this as a memorabilia kind of piece. And, you know, like I said, I do work for money sometimes, and I do weddings, so I go to the wedding and I paint the wedding. It could be a 12-hour wedding, a 3-hour wedding, whatever, and I'll paint everything that happens in the wedding, and I had no idea these people were behind me. This little girl came up and said, what are you doing? I'm like, what's your name? Susie. And then I just wrote her name in the painting, and before you know it, all the kids were coming around. My name is Joe. My name is Kevin. My name. So their name, and then before you know it, people, everybody at the entire party by the end of the night were in the painting. So I start my paintings out like whatever color the wedding invitation is. Their wedding happened to be like that. And then I paint the wedding as it's happening and getting dressed and cutting the cake and doing the dance and, you know, the whole thing. So usually I paint up in Yosemite, so this is in the main room. And then the happy couples get their little, you know, memorabilia. Oops. Oh, I should probably do it on the screen instead of looking up there. I do paint with other people, and I like painting with other people. So here me and Alice Kuby are painting a piece together. And I paint also with Charlene Rice when we go down in the evenings and live bands are playing and we do live painting and we paint on top of each other. So she'll paint, we'll cover the whole painting, well, I'll spray it, and then we'll go in and she goes over my work, I go over hers, and then she erases mine, and then I erase hers, and I put designs on hers, and we go back and forth, and we're weaving together. And at the end of the 2 hours, we have a piece. And people have an opportunity to see artists complete a giant piece that's 12 feet by 5 feet in less than 2 hours together. Sometimes I have paint on my palette and I just don't, it's so expensive, I hate to waste it. So I do these little mini paintings called jewels, and I have this one back there. But they're just extra paint. And this painting just got painted over, thank God. But I do murals all over, and this mural was up for 5 restaurants. It made it through 5 restaurants, and finally, last month, they finally came in, and Madera County says you have to paint anything that's a mural over because it's against the rules, too big of signage. So I came back, and my murals are all done. And then, of course, sometimes I have to work. So I do this drunk to oil stuff to make, this one was to try to make the bathroom look like it had depth, because seriously the bathroom was like as big as like the toilet. So I tried to create this feeling of like, you know. And then I do faux painting, so I go into people's house and I take their brand new beautiful house and then I make it look old or like whatever they want. These people wanted it to look like an old Venice, you know, place like 400 years ago where the soot was on the ceiling because they were lighting things with, you know, flames, and they were trying to wipe the soot off with the broom, and, you know, it's always getting dirtier and dirtier. So, you know, it's like, it depends on what they want. And then, of course, I get the little girls' bedrooms jobs too, you know, so it's like 1 minute I'm doing one thing, old master style, and the next thing I'm doing like little girls. And if you go on Google, you can see a lot of my pieces on, you know, you just put in the address, and this piece was called Laugh, Dance, Sing, Pray. And it stayed up on the wall for 6 years before the people that moved into the new apartment decided to paint it over. And it was like the whole town went up in arms, because what I would do is I go through the towns and I take graffiti, because this was an actual graffiti. Somebody came on this house and they sprayed a graffiti piece right here. Just some ugly tag, and I'm like, ooh, that tag looks like I can make it into something. So I would go around the town and I would decorate the tags, and I do it only at night, and the police actually would drive up and watch me paint at night on people's houses, and then people would wake up and have their houses painted. And of course, Jean-Michel is my man. He used to be Samo. He sprayed all the way from San Diego all the way to the top of California, SAMO, all over the freeways and in New York. And I always wondered, who is that guy? And I found out that, you know, we were doing the same thing, except for he was on the East Coast mostly and I was on the West Coast. Here's one of my paintings that I'm just developing right now. It's not finished yet, but you can kind of see where that painting's going to go. And I like to paint really big, and this is a 60-foot piece that I worked on. And so I start by just putting colors down. Once I put the colors down, I look at the colors like when you're looking at clouds, and I try to find a shape. So then I start pulling out shapes. And also, because this was a business, I had to put things in there that related to their business. So So, you know, they gave me a whole list of words, and I worked those words in those symbols. And then as the day, and I only paint at night, so these paintings were done like from 9 o'clock at night till midnight every night. And people would come and watch. And I just kept developing it every day. And then somebody said, oh, I love all the red, you should put like Waldo in there. And I'm like, okay. So I drew Waldo, and if you can find him, you get extra credit. No, there he is. But people would come and I say, hey, can you see Waldo? And they were like, so they have to walk through my mural and try to find it. So it kind of gives them a little activity to do while they're looking at my work. I like doing work for other people because sometimes I get to do characters that I would never get to do otherwise. And this is Wall-E from the Pixar film, and Eve. And of course, you know, trains are I like trains. You can paint really big, really fast. No one ever finds you. And this isn't my piece, by the way. But I do like to use words that mean things to me. And breathing, if you can wake up breathing every morning, you've already done half of the day. Just waking up and enjoying your breath. And I almost lost my breath here putting this whole show together because everything stopped working before you guys came in. And then sometimes I'm offered to paint at people's, you know, at festivals. And this is a graffiti festival. A bunch of 7 graffiti artists from Fresno came up and painted on, and this is my piece. My section here, and that's Zoe Ashcraft painting her piece. And mine's a picture of Mexico and hanging clothes. Here's a close-up. So you can see how my paintings develop. And I like other people's graffiti, so I walk around all over and photograph other people's graffiti. I love this. I want to try to do something like this, you know, where you make a stencil and then just spray it, then you can spray it all over the place. And then, you know, when I go to Mexico, I'm really poor, but I'm changing my attitude about money, so I'm going to start to, you know, get more wealthy so I can travel easier. So when I travel, I stay at people's houses and I do pieces for them, so for my rent. So here I am getting ready. You can see the beach is right here, and thousands of people walk past this house all the time. And then I just paint. So here's kind of how I just go ahead and I just paint. She really liked that turtle painting that I did. So I just painted her a turtle, and she watched me paint it. I started at sunrise and I finished at sunset. And that was that painting that ended up in the newspaper article. And apparently I look taller in the photograph than I am in real life. I like to paint for myself too. Sometimes I paint for everybody else and I never get to do anything for myself. So, you know, this is a love shack I painted at my house. But I really like to travel and get inspired, and my most favorite place, like I said, is on the beach somewhere where there's sand and warm water. And this was another trip where I was painting. So you can see I'm in a tent, and I'm using a coconut for my water container, whatever's around. And these are tiny little paintings that I do, and this one's sold already, but you know, they're little paintings of things that I've done while I'm there in Mexico. I went to a dance and everybody was 17, and I'm like in my 40s. I felt like I was a teacher at the school dance, and they were all drinking beer. What the heck? They would fill beer bottles in their pants, and then they would slap them down like this, and they wouldn't take the beer. I'm like, what the heck? These kids are like 14 years old. You're letting them bring beer? Apparently it didn't matter. This one I just sold yesterday. It's called Have You Ever Been in Love? Sometimes I'll just sit on the beach and just paint. Oh, so you can see the size of my paintings. This piece is like 7.5 feet tall by 6 feet wide. So when you're standing in front of my paintings, you walk past them, you really feel like you're in them. Oops, I'm sorry. So that's the painting when it was finished. So, you know, like I'm this big, right? So you can see, you really get involved. You have to walk through the painting and you actually feel like you're inside. And here's I'm trying to put my graffiti style with my psychedelic seaweed, so this is as far as I could go to merge the two. This one's called Jump on Your Bed Every Day because I'm a massage therapist, and the best way to get your lymphatic system going is to jump. So it got sold right away, but one of my clients bought it because she thought, yeah, I love it. And then this one you saw in the back. This one is about, you know, what would happen if my work is so incredibly complicated. What would happen if it snowed on my painting? So what I did is I take white paint after everything is completely done and I start laying in snow, how it would lay. So this is part of my germination series. Every single thing in this entire painting is a seed or a germinating seed or a plant. And you saw this one. And I also do printmaking, and this one's owned by Judy DeRosa, but I paint on plexiglass, and then I print it, and then I go in with Prismacolor pencils and things like that. And sometimes I'm the spectacle at shows and stuff, so here I was doing people like to see action when they go to an art show, so I'm always like out there painting some big thing, and they come into the thing, so I did this one at the Sierra Art Trails. People ask me, do you sell your work? Yeah, I sell my work, but it's really not about selling work. All I can say is that I really love doing my work, and if you love what you create, you're going to exude that in the piece and speak to someone, and in turn, they might thank you in a monetary way with some sort of value, paper money, and that's really great. I don't mind it, but I don't paint for people to pay me money. So I'm just going to show you how, here's another one where I start it, and then I start finding the feeling, the movement, and I start pulling out the shapes like if I was in a cloud, looking at shapes in a cloud, defining it, and then finally doing the final piece. This piece is really huge, and it's already sold. It's called First Kiss. And I do like to do other things besides painting, but everything I do looks like my painting. So, even though I'm doing showers for people, they have that feeling of a graffiti artist. All my work kind of has that flavor. So when you see this shower, which I'm not finished with yet, it kind of looks like a painting, right? Kind of has that, and it's rounded. And this piece is back there. You saw it. Road to Athens. I wanted to do something with, going into the past, but also bringing in like transportation. So this is a transportation kind of painting. And here's a little jewel, one of those paintings that I do when I have extra paint. And this is the surfboard that I brought down to Mexico last month, and I thought it was going to be surfed on, but he said, "Why did you have to do such a good job? I can't surf on that, oh my God." So he hung it on the wall with these big hooks, and I shouldn't have bought such a good surfboard. I like to paint on other surfaces. One of my goals are to paint on a BMW for the new year. I want to be a BMW artist. So this next year, I'm going to be one of those artists. And here is the boat painted. I paint on refrigerators, whatever you want me to paint on. I paint on bottles. You saw some of those back there. I like the fact that they're on bottles because it's a three-dimensional painting surface. You can look at it and touch it. Paint on shoes sometimes, shirts. And then I like to make my space where I live fun too. So, here's one of the places that I live. My father lives in this tiki trailer now, sometimes. And like I said, I want to paint a BMW just like Keith Haring. He's one of my favorite people in the world. He was painting on the East Coast doing his graffiti, and I was doing my graffiti on the West Coast, and then we met in Japan, where in 1983 we were working together, but we didn't ever know each other. And then one day I went back to LA, and my sister said, "Rivka, I saw your poster, your big billboard in LA." And I'm like, "I didn't do no billboard in LA." And she says, "Yes, you did." And I drove down on Sunset Boulevard, and there was my artwork on a billboard. And then I said, "Who is that Haring guy, or that person?" And it ended up being Keith Haring. And you couldn't tell our artwork apart in the 80s. And then, of course, I do work for money. So here's book covers. And he wanted it to look like Salvador Dali kind of thing, making your brain work better. And then he wrote other books. So, for some reason, he always hires me to do his book covers. Sometimes I just do things for fun. Sometimes I do it because people want 3 crosses on 3 hills. And of course I am a teacher, and hopefully this year, maybe Minarets High School is going to hire me, but I took a year off. Last year I retired, I thought in June, and I became Teacher of the Year in Madera County, and I thought, okay, that's it. But now it's 2013, so I'm no longer Teacher of the Year, so I got to start all over again. And my motto in this this sign has been in my classroom since 1983. I wrote it, I remember writing it because our clock never worked. And they're like, what time is it? I'm like, I don't care what time it is, just keep painting. So we were always late. And and they wouldn't stop painting even though the bell would ring outside. And as you see, I write books for teachers and patches in some of my books. You'll actually see patches work in my handbooks to inspire people, and if you had a chance. And everything I consider art. So, like, art is everything, everywhere around you. Artists create their spaces, they create people's clothes, they are everywhere. And so I kind of wrote this because what is the role of an artist in society? And I wrote that artists are the reflection of the society they created. Artists create everything you see, every tool you use, every outfit you wear, every plate you eat off of, every car you drive, every movie you watch, every song you hear, every meal you eat. Art is a human condition. Once a society's basic needs are met, art is the next step to human evolution. Art can be deceiving too. Artwork is ever changing and depends on who's looking at it at what time of their life. And this is my motto. The whole point of art is to open our minds to more alternative and ambiguities in the way we see the world. Because that's what we as artists are. We point out the normal so that people can see it. And just some other pieces that I've done. And John was saying that he draws in church. Well, I draw on jury duty. So this is a jury duty painting because I was getting really bored, kind of wondering where do all those love letters go that don't get mailed? And what do cats dream? And why do seashells sing? And how do I love these? So, I just kind of like words. I also design tattoos. I designed this one in church. It's on 3 bodies. You've seen this painting, Pistachio. But I also photograph, and I'm not good, but I'm going to show you a few photographs beforehand because I like detail. I like getting close up, and I just think that that's a cool insect. And look at it. I went in, my friend gave me some flowers, and I looked at it, I'm like, what the heck is that? And it was a frog. Oh my gosh. So there you go. And, I was driving down to Mexico, and here's this big, huge, whatever, this pig. Oh my gosh, you can't pass that. So basically, that's who I am, that's how I paint, that's how I think, and so I hope you enjoyed what I had to share tonight. So, like I said, there's, in the back there's, if you want to have some of my little bookmarks to remind yourself of me, feel free to take whatever you'd like, and I have your phone number, so when I finish with this painting, I'll give that to you, give you a call. And if there's any questions, it's almost 9 o'clock, so if you have any questions, I'll answer them now.
You were going to answer my question. How do you know when you're done?
That's the paintings where I put snow on, that's when I've gone too far, and I have to simplify. So if I feel like I have to snow a painting, it means that I've pushed it beyond my limits. And I never know it because I keep wanting to add more and more and more. And people say, stop! I want to buy it right now. I'm like, it's not finished. But they think it is, so I sell it to them unfinished. To me, finished to them. But really, I have a tendency to go too far sometimes, so I have to back off. And when I do, I have to color out. So, yes.
Where do you get your energy?
Moringa. I take moringa every day, and it's been completely changing my. No, it's not moringa. Yeah, it is moringa. I haven't eaten since this morning, but also I just love life, and I don't know. I have a hyperkinetic. I'm always been. Ever since I was a little kid, I could do 700 things where one kid does one thing. I'm really good at multitasking, and I don't know what it is. It's just my personality. Any other questions? So, well, I really appreciate you guys sitting through and listening to.
One more thank you for Rivka, please. Okay, well, this was tremendous. It was amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
And when you guys come up to to the mountain areas, feel free to look me up. I have a phone number, and I'm going to be showing at the Moment Gallery, which is a new gallery that's coming. My friend always said to me, Rivka, I hate to break it to you, but you're never going to be famous until you die because no one can relate to your concepts and it's so futuristic. And I said, well, I just need a gallery that's like hip. And so what happened, I'm in Mexico, I get a phone call from this guy who I don't know and says, I want you to open my gallery with me. So I've been working for 3 weeks now, opening up the Moment Gallery, and it's a gallery that has nothing to do with Yosemite, but it's in Yosemite area.
I'm on up where on Wednesday.
Okay, well, so the gallery's not open yet, we're still working on it, but it's where the old Revive building is, next to Gallery Road. So.
Okay, time to clean up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for participating, and thank you for your words.
Are you finished? Are you still finished?
So a lot of the presentation I experienced from Rivka tonight, I experienced as a student in high school. And Rivka gave me a lot of credit saying that she took a lot of painting methods from me and learned how to paint from me, when really it was the other way around. As a student, I was just starting off learning a way to paint that was, unique to my expression. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was really taking a lot from her in terms of just sort of the organic flow of the painting's composition, and then amassing all of this information into it. At the time, I was learning a lot of math and whatnot, and so that was in the painting. And I was taking from the people around me and painting. And I learned this from Rivka. Painting became a social media for me, and this was before Facebook, before the whole social internet media thing blew up. And painting was that vehicle for me, and I learned that from Rivka, and I've been working with that ever since.
That's great. She's an inspiration.
Yeah, she continues to be an inspiration for me.
Last thing I'm gonna have
The guy, Rami, he made the sign.
But you got to inhale.
How you doing, brother?